Why do so many people historically hate Jews?
Why don't you ask them?
We've asked a few, but I want to ask you.
What are they
Oh, I see. Oh man, I don't know if anyone would give a strong. I think there would definitely be fingers pointed towards their dominance in certain sectors of the economy, I suppose. I guess their disproportionate impact economically, and some reference towards they believe there being some like back-end control over society, some like dark puppeteering or something. That would probably be like a mainstream Twitter narrative you might be able to stumble upon. But I don't know. We'll ask a few people though on the streets after this at some point.
Well, in simplified language,
Yeah.
It sounds like jealousy. How come you've always been the richer one, the smarter one, the controlling one, the superior one? Well, what is that? That's jealousy. How come you get all the money? Try a little harder, maybe you can get some money too. Stop complaining.
So do you think even going pre-Holocaust,
Oh yeah.
what was the impetus that caused people to hate and persecute Jews in that historical timeline?
It's all ego-driven. It's all jealousy. If you can't compete in productive ways, constructive ways, then you resort to violence to prove that you're better, stronger. It's like Hamas celebrates the success of their raid. What that means? We successfully raped and decapitated babies. That shows that God is on our side and we are the good people. How does that make any sense?
I've also heard the Jewish perspective that the Jews, as from their perspective and from what God has said, at least in the Old Testament, them as the chosen people, has led to a lifetime of persecution. So you think that, in addition to their status in society today, has led to some jealousy and just society wrong because insert Jew?
Oh, yeah, for sure. There's no question that it's all jealousy based. Now, the question is, why does God make a statement like, you are my chosen, my firstborn? Why say that? Didn't he know it would create jealousy?
Sure, it seems like if that's what God said, he's almost setting you guys up to get persecuted until the end of time.
On the other hand, if we are supposed to be the teachers and the role models, shouldn't he tell the world?
I see.
So what God is actually doing is testing mankind to see how you handle jealousy. Because, if Einstein had a brother, if Albert Einstein had a brother, would his brother be jealous? Albert gets all the attention.
I'm sure. Logical human psychology would lead me to believe he would probably be somewhat resentful, wish he was as smart, wish he would get... Did he even get a Nobel Prize for relativity? I don't know. I'm sure he'd be jealous.
Yeah. But that would be very foolish, wouldn't it?
From what perspective?
Why does Albert get all the attention?
Sure.
Is he some kind of an Einstein?
Sure, I get it.
Right?
Yeah.
He's an Einstein. What do you mean, why is he getting attention? So what is the alternative for the brother?
He can respect and show some respect to the fact that he's so gifted intellectually, and it's really cool. Albert, you're doing good work.
He can be proud of his brother.
Sure.
Those are the options.
Yeah.
You can either be jealous or proud.
Sure.
But you can't deny. You can't say, I'm just as smart, or I'm better.
Do you think the Jews think they're better than other people because they're God's chosen people? Like, what are your thoughts on a goy?
If you're chosen, you better be grateful. And say, well, I don't care about being... No. If you're chosen, it is special. But you didn't do the choosing.
I see.
You were chosen. What it should make you feel is deeply responsible. Being chosen is not a privilege, it's an awesome responsibility. And that's why we're not always so good at living up to it, because it's a very heavy responsibility. But we have no choice. You're chosen, then start behaving chosen. What are you going to do? You can't run away.
Sure. So you have like Hitler dialogue that's saying the Aryans are the superior race. Do you think in reality the Jewish people are the superior chosen people, even ordained by God himself?
Doesn't it make sense that if you think you're the superior ordained people, that you would be the least likely to kill others? So how do you say we are the superior race, so we're going to kill everybody? You're
Sure.
contradicting yourself.
Well, I guess the concept would be, I don't know, eugenics, and they're trying to cleanse the gene pool from what they deem unviable, whatever the terminology they use.
Well, actually, Hitler's philosophy was that moral instruction, moral compulsion, moral restriction is unnatural, and it's killing people.
Interesting. Okay.
A human being should not be governed by morality. He believed that human beings should be barbarians. You do what you want to do to the best of your ability, and you should not have a conscience. He really believed that conscience is a disease that handicaps people. And therefore, those who represent values and conscience have to be eliminated.
So let's talk about killing people and war right now. Can you explain what's going on in Israel and how that relates to Judaism and Islam, or maybe the differences between those beliefs?
It is a completely religious war. Although it's hidden, it's never mentioned, it's never discussed, but it is purely a religious war.
So what we're seeing in Israel right now, or Gaza, the conflict in Gaza, I suppose, because that's the contested land, right? Just that strip. So the conflict in Gaza is Muslims versus Jews. Is that what it is? As simple as it gets?
And if it's Muslims versus Jews, then it's not about Gaza.
I see. Okay, it's people versus people.
Then it's global.
Okay.
Then it's
Give me a kind of a breakdown of how you see the war.
okay. The religious issue, very simply, is Israel is an inheritance. The land of Israel is an inheritance. God gave it to Abraham as an inheritance. He made it very clear. For you and your children for all time to come. An inheritance you cannot conquer. So somebody comes in and conquers Israel, it's not theirs. The only way that Israel can belong to you is if you inherit. That has been proven many times in history. The Babylonians conquered Israel. It never became Babylonian. The Romans conquered Israel. It never became Rome, or Little Rome, or New Rome, or Romania.
Got it.
It was always Israel, because the only way to own the land, to possess it, is through inheritance.
But from the other side, what is the other side's perspective? Because the people of Palestine, or is that Jordan from the Jewish perspective? Are these Jordanians that are claiming the land? Palestinians? What is a Palestinian from the Jewish perspective? What does that mean?
The word means nothing.
Okay.
The Muslims believe that they are the inheritors of this land because Abraham's oldest son is Ishmael. And they are descendants of Ishmael.
So Muslims are descendants of Ishmael.
That's the claim.
Okay. And is that corroborated by holy texts, or the Torah, or the Quran? What confirms that belief for them?
Nothing.
Okay.
The descendants of Ishmael are Abraham's children. Therefore, they are circumcised. Abraham was commanded to have his children, boys, circumcised. So they circumcise at the age of 13. They have no idols, no icons, no statues, no pictures, which was Abraham's teachings about God. And because Ishmael was the older son, they believe that they inherit the land, whereas we're saying we are the descendants of Yitzchak, the son that Abraham had with Sarah, and Yitzchak is the heir, and we are Yitzchak's children, so we inherit the land. That is the entire issue. Everything else is a red herring.
So Gaza itself, that contested strip, is a red herring for the average person onlooking this whole war?
Yeah, because the Muslims believe that Tel Aviv belongs to them, and Jerusalem.
I see. Can you explain the concept of a two-state solution and the whole mantra from the sea to the something, we will be free? I don't know if you know what it is.
From the river to the sea?
From the river to the sea, we will be free. What does that mean?
It means nothing.
Is it a call for all Jews to die?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why must all Jews die?
Sure. Why?
Because Jews challenge the inheritance. And the only way to get rid of that is that there should be no Jews.
So the possession of Israel, owned by the Jews, occupied by the Jews, that is a challenge to the Palestinians and what they believe to be their holy land?
To all Muslims.
Okay.
Palestinians are nothing.
I see.
So,
what is Palestine?
A figment of somebody's imagination.
Did it ever exist historically? Okay. So when someone says free Palestine, what does that mean?
It means that they're ignorant.
Okay. Can you give me some more details? Because the average person watching probably thinks they know something about the situation, but the more I talk about it, the less I realize I actually know. What does free Palestine mean?
There are no Palestinian people before 1967. So there are no Palestinian people. There are Muslims who are Arabs who claim to be descendants of Ishmael, and therefore the land belongs to them. And that's why there will be no two-state solution, because as far as they're concerned, the entire country belongs to them. So what does it mean? Israel will give them Gaza? You're giving me my land? It's insulting.
I see. So can you explain the concept of a two-state solution and who proposed that?
Israel.
So Israel proposed to the Palestinians, as they call themselves, from your perspective, hey, why don't we just go splitsies?
Yeah, we'll give you some of the land. And they say, you're going to give me?
And they say, from the sea to the...
It's our land.
I see. You
by
will die.
Inheritance. Yeah, that's a key word here. Like you can say, Israel has a stronger army, a better army, and we will beat you up and we will occupy this land. And they say, that doesn't make it yours. Yeah, you can beat me up. It's still my land.
Okay.
And that's why in 60 years, all the negotiations have been a failure, because we're not dealing with the issue. The land is all theirs without them having to lift a finger. That's what inheritance means. They can be sleeping and they inherit.
Got it.
And that's why even a baby is a threat to them, because babies inherit.
I see. So the gene pool as a concept is problematic.
Okay. Now, the real truth is there are no descendants of Ishmael.
Why?
Because they're all intermarried.
I see.
It's been 3,000 years. No one can trace their biological line to Ishmael.
Okay, so the Jews were more selective in who they propagated with?
We are the biological descendants of Yitzchak.
So you're 100% Jewish?
Yes.
I see. So that's a prerequisite. A Jew marries a Jew? Is that how the Hasidic Jews work?
In fact, I am from the tribe of Levi, which is the tribe of Aaron. You can actually check the genetic markers to identify the descendants of Aaron. So it's biological, it's factual, whereas the Muslims follow the teachings of Abraham. They are not biological descendants.
Got it.
Even if they were, The Torah says very clearly, Ishmael will not inherit with Yitzchak. Yitzchak is the heir, not Ishmael.
So this brings me to the fundamental differences between Islam and Judaism. Is the Quran a derivative of the Torah? And if so, what are the key differences between Muslims' holy book and your guys' holy book?
We don't have a holy book. We have God's word.
Okay.
The Quran is a prophet's word. Whether he actually heard what he says he heard, how would anybody know?
I see.
So here's how I see it.
But is that the equivalent of, I don't know, who's a key figure in the Torah who spoke to God? Would that be Abraham? Is he an example?
Moses?
How, with that same logic, can we take them at face value of what they heard?
No, it's not Moses. The entire nation stood at Mount Sinai and heard God.
I see.
Every one of them.
So the multiple
We're
witnessing.
not taking Moses' word for it.
Got it. So it's corroborated by several witnesses. That's the key
2
difference.
million.
Versus one.
Yeah.
I see. So Muhammad as a singular prophet figure versus the whole nation.
Right.
So there's historical accounts of the whole nation having spoken to God on Mount Sinai?
Right.
Okay.
So here's how I see it. Everyone believes in the Bible. The Torah, the 5 books of Moses, the 10 commandments, right? At some point, people got together and said, 613 commandments, very demanding, hard, very hard. Got to make it a little easier. Lighten up. Give people a break. Let them get into heaven without keeping all the commandments. And you have Christianity. A while later, like 1,000 years later,
Sure.
some people got together and said, we're way too lenient. Nobody's going to follow laws if you don't enforce. So if you steal something, you have to pay it back? No. Chop the hand off. Now we'll get some obedience. Now we'll get some discipline. That became Islam. So Christianity says Torah is too strict. Islam says not strict enough.
So Islam believes that the Torah is not strict enough.
And Christianity believes that it's too strict.
Got it. So Jesus emerges as a messianic figure for Christians who believe that they can atone for their sins and the fact they've failed to keep the 10 Commandments.
That he died for your sins. Yeah?
Okay.
So basically what happened is they both intended to improve on the original. And terrible, disastrous failures.
In what ways?
Well, it brought nothing but war and hatred and violence and nasty, nasty things. We're getting better with time, but the innovation was not a good one. So what happens if you try to improve on a product and it turns out that it's not an improvement? It's like when Coke decided to change their...
If your business, you would shelf the product or you take it off the shelves.
Well, so they tried to improve on the original and it didn't work. So, of course, they went back.
But sales went up, right? This is the equivalent of like New Coke or Diet Coke, and Christianity outsells Judaism, right? Because you can be recruited into Christianity or Islam, but you guys don't bring any new folks into the club often, right?
Yeah. But, Diet Coke is a necessary evil.
Is that how you view Christianity or Islam?
No, I'm just saying that the improvement is not an improvement.
I see.
It's just and that's why
It's
now...
a tweak, though, right? It's more palatable. It's less sugar. It's, I get the same bit.
Not more palatable?
Well, I think it's pretty good. Some may argue it's even better than Coke.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I think it's actually the best-selling Coke product on the market. Yeah. Maybe not internationally, but I think among Americans especially, which maybe is reflective of Christianity.
You see these cans of Coke. Original.
Sure. So is that how you view Jews?
Yes, I'm saying that in a very short time, what's going to happen is the world is going to go back to the original because the enhancement didn't work.
So, genuine question. Do you think Islam and Christianity is the non-Jews' attempt to gain heaven? Because I'm not I'm a goy. I'm not a Jew. I am non-chosen. I am less than in God's eyes, from God's own words, according to the Old Testament and the Torah. What does the average person do to, I don't know, gain God's goodwill or benefits if he or she is unchosen?
Well, this is a matter of relationship. It's not a matter of affection.
I see.
So a person would say to his best friend, how come you keep going back to your wife? Am I not your best friend? I said, don't be ridiculous. Okay?
Sure.
Oh, so I'm not a loyal friend because I love my wife? Knock it off. You don't love my children as much as you love your children. You're a racist. Come on, stop it.
Got it.
So God has his children, which are the Jewish people, and God has his creation, which is all of humankind. What are you jealous about? What is the competition here? So, non-Jews, all human beings, have to develop a relationship with God through good deeds, godly deeds. Jews are God's children, and they better do what God asks of them because it's in the family.
So you guys are held at a higher standard and serve to be an example for the Goy or the non-Jews?
Well, if you're the king's children, yeah, they're going to hold you to a higher standard. But you obey the king not in order to develop a relationship. You obey him because you are in a relationship. Whereas God's creation needs to develop a relationship.
Okay.
But that relationship doesn't mean die and go to heaven.
Got it. It's because God wants to come down to earth. He's bringing himself to earth from the Jewish perspective.
Right.
He wants to come down, and you're his conduit to kind of share that?
You're his voice, his messenger, his representatives, his ambassador.
And in Chabad Lubavitch, did I say it right? Okay, we saw the emissaries on the wall. So these are people that go out all across the world sharing the works or the God's commandments?
Yes. Yeah. So this answers the very, very fundamental question, why are we here?
Why?
To bring God down to earth. We are part of earth. We are part of nature. If we invite God into our lives, we're bringing him down to earth. So we're literally partners with God. Not we're born in trouble and need help. It's a depressing attitude.
Why do you think other religions, I know you don't consider Judaism religion, why do you think other religions then consider the earth and the world and this life as almost insignificant or disposable as they look forward to heaven? Or what is the term for Islam? Like they look forward, like what happened in Sydney. The guy stabbed a bishop, and I'm pretty sure he said Allahu Akbar, and I think there's some expectation of 72 wives or virgins at the end of that. Why do you think other religions developed the need or interest in the afterlife and a sort of dismissiveness towards right now, right here?
It all begins with our limited imagination. We try to imagine, what is God? If it's up to the human being to decide what God is, we would naturally come to the conclusion that he is the most perfect being possible. If he's the most perfect being possible, then he is way too big, way too important, and way too busy with divine things and can't be bothered with administrating the earth. And therefore, we cannot possibly be significant unless we go to heaven where he is. Bring God down to earth. He's too big to be on earth. Earth is not big enough to accommodate him.
Okay.
That was the original mistake that early idolaters made. Why did they worship idols? They didn't think the idol created the world. They thought the creator of the world moved on to bigger and better things. And now he can't be bothered with my problems. I need food, I need shelter, I can't ask him for that. That's blasphemous. I have to ask his ministers, like the sun and the moon and the fertility of the earth. I have to beg them to take care of me. Well, eventually God became relegated to the heaven of heavens. He became completely irrelevant to earth. And therefore, if you want to be close to God, you got to get off this earth.
Got it.
What God says about himself is, I'm not stuck in heaven. I'm not heavenly. I'm real. I'm real in heaven. I'm real on earth. I'm not spiritual. I'm God. I can be spiritual. I can be physical. And I want to be the God of earth. But to be the God of earth, I have to be coronated.
Okay.
I have to be invited. I'm not going to impose myself. So he gives us free choice, tells us about himself, what pleases him, what doesn't please him. Now we know how to design this world to his specifications.
Here's a question for you. In my brief lifetime, I don't think I've seen the world hate Jews more than perhaps, I guess, maybe, I would imagine during the Holocaust they hated Jews more then. But right now, a lot of people hate Jews. And I don't think they necessarily have strong reasoning for those beliefs. Do you have any thoughts or facts you'd like to provide for the average person who sees what's happening in Gaza and wants to form an opinion on what's going on, or wants to have some clarity on what's going on? So I think right now a lot of people are forced to almost choose a political side of how they see this, leading to a hateful opinion on one side or the other. Do you have anything that could help the average person understand that situation a little more?
It's just interesting and fascinating. All these people who are marching in the pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas rallies, and they're screaming and they're shouting and they're carrying these banners, then they go home. What do they do when they go home? They forget about it.
Yeah.
They couldn't care less. Until the next rally.
Sure.
I think rallying for a cause is an act of desperation. They have no other meaning to their lives. And in some way, it's a compliment to them. You have nothing better to do than to walk the streets chanting about a people you know nothing about, an issue you know nothing about, which river, which sea, you don't know, and you don't care. It's a cause. And that feels more significant than going home and making dinner. So the world is desperate for a cause, for a purpose, because their lives are so empty. But this guy says to me, college student, he says to me, I don't believe in God. I said, what? He said, I don't believe in God. I said, I don't understand. He says, not everyone believes in God. I don't believe in God. I said, I don't understand what you're saying.
Why is that? You cannot conceptualize.
He says, what don't you understand?
Yeah.
I said, what is God?
Mm.
He says, I have no idea. I said, so what don't you believe in?
Okay. Do you think most people lack a foundational understanding of any of this to even have an opinion on a lot of it?
Right.
Okay.
If you don't know what God is, you can't not believe in him.
Interesting. Okay.
You don't know what a Jew is. You don't hate Jews.
Sure.
You're venting your frustrations on a word. If you knew what a Jew is, you wouldn't hate him.
Why do you think people hate Jews?
Again, an old standing jealousy. But most people today, they would be thrilled if Jews were the chosen people, because then there's at least a role model to fashion yourself after. They have no idea what a Jew is.
What is Hamas?
Extreme, religious, maybe fanatical Muslims. They're not the only ones. Hamas is just a word. They're all cut from the same religion, the same cloth, the same beliefs. And their pride and claim to fame is that they are descendants of Abraham. They're not the only ones, but they're very proud of it. And that gives them natural ownership to Israel. That's their belief. If we would just sit down and explain to them, you don't inherit by following Abraham's customs. You have to be a biological descendant to inherit, and you're not. So a lot of credit to you for not having idols, a lot of credit to you for being circumcised and for praying 5 times a day. It's beautiful. You don't inherit.
Do you think there's any strong similarities between Jewish people and Muslims?
In the beliefs,
Sure.
yes. There's one God. He created the world. There's reward and punishment. There's a heaven. There's a Messiah. The world needs to be perfected.
But the fundamental difference is you have birthright, Jewish genetics. They do not. They're not the chosen people.
So when it comes to the little piece of land called Israel, which is an inheritance other than all other lands, the absurdity of this whole argument is every land that is conquered through war belongs to the conqueror. And it's a fact of life since the beginning of history. No one questions
The United
Germans,
States. Or,
the Germans' right to Germany.
sure.
They took it from somebody. And that's fine. Just not Israel.
So in Israel's case, the conqueror in this analogy, it's disputed that they should have this land, despite the fact that every other land in every modern country is more or less the result of wars and conquering.
Why are we even debating this? We beat you up in 67 and we took your land. That's it. That's ours now. And if we beat you up, we'll take Gaza, it'll be ours. Like every other country in the world. No, you're an occupier. We're not occupiers, we're conquerors. No, not good enough. Why is that?
What is the United States' role in, I guess, installing modern Israel? Or I guess some may cite, I don't know, the United States' involvement in helping Israel get to that point. Because this obviously isn't, the Jewish people, the Muslim people in Gaza fighting it out. We have other people funding each group through proxy wars, right? This is also a proxy war, would you say?
No.
For Qatar's funding one side, you have the United States backing Israel. There's other parties and groups involved, right?
Yeah. But supporting an ally is not an act of war. We're not feeding the war machine.
Okay.
We're protecting and helping the country maintain itself. The reason America does that is self-interest. America gains a lot by having Israel in the Middle East as an ally. So I don't think America will ever stop supporting Israel on principle, because practically they need Israel. So of course they're going to complain and say we're against it, but they need Israel to be strong. It's self-interest. It's not noble.
What are your thoughts on the Iran missile strike recently?
Iran has been a problem for the last 70 years.
In what sense?
They've always intended to destroy Israel. It's probably our enemy number one. And we've been ignoring it. We've been putting it off.
Why are they enemy number one? Just because they seek to destroy Jews?
And they're getting to be capable.
Got it. And they hate Jews more than other groups, or they're just more capable than most other groups at potentially destroying Jews?
It's, again, a very ego-driven. In the Arab world, they are looked down on. Right? They're not real Arabs. They're not real Muslims. And they want to establish a superiority in the region. If they become the conquerors of Israel, they'll get a little respect. That's it.
So everyone's gunning for Israel.
Isn't that amazing?
It's interesting. It's very odd. Yeah.
You know, we're trying to take over the world. Well, we're pretty pathetic if all we want is that little piece of land.
Sure.
That's not even
Why
as
is
big
that
as New
land so
Jersey.
special? I mean, I don't know much about it geographically, but from the outside, it doesn't look that desirable. Is there oil in there? Is there some unique resource in there that everyone wants? What's so special about Gaza and that chunk of land? That's Israel.
Well, God says to Abraham, who was living in Iraq, he says, leave this place and come to the land that I choose. Oh, that's God's chosen land? That's as bad as God's chosen people. So we want to oppress the people and conquer the land because it's a challenge. My God is stronger than your God. It's all foolish. And I think the big failure is that we haven't let the world know.
You haven't let the world know what?
What it means to be chosen, what it means to be a holy land. Everybody knows it's the holy. What does that mean? Tell the world what that means. The world will love it.
So, but you have other groups that claim that it's their holy land, right? You have Christians, Muslims, Jews, and from each of those perspectives, they denounce the others. Is that accurate?
Even that is ironic. Everybody believes that that piece of land is their holy land.
Sure.
It's so ironic.
Ironic in the sense that...
Find a bigger country to make your holy land.
Got it.
It's all because God said this is the holy land. So everybody wants it. If we were more, more open, the world would be in a much better shape. The truth is we haven't been able to communicate the truth because no one was listening to us. We had no voice. And then anytime we tried to say something, we were shot at. So we learned to mind our own business and live in ghettos and be isolated from the world for the safety of it. Didn't turn out to be so safe.
How is it being a Jew in 2024?
Now, two things have changed. First of all, we have the tool to communicate with the world safely. The internet. And that's the whole world. Secondly, the vast majority of people, maybe 80% of the people in the world, are completely disappointed, disillusioned by their government, by their philosophies, by their religion. What are people proud of today?
Political affiliation?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
I think people treat politics as a sort of religion sometimes.
Yeah, but it's embarrassing.
Okay.
You're voting for Biden? Oh, you're proud of that?
I see. Okay, what
Well,
would
he's
your
our,
answer be?
he's our candidate.
No, you're right. I suppose it's voting for Trump better than the old guy who's going to fall asleep or whatever. You're right. It's like, sorry.
Like, who really worships their king or their emperor?
Maybe, I don't know, theocracy out there. I'm sure
Where?
I don't know, are there some princes out there that are...
Figureheads.
Sure, you got the Queen of England.
Right.
Well, she's dead.
King.
Yeah. But no one has any pride like they used to, right? The world's becoming more secular.
Nobody believes in anything. Everything has been a disappointment. Science was the hope. It will give us everything good. It's also giving us all sorts of diseases and nuclear war. So science is not
Interesting. Yeah.
It's not that's the solution. Medicine is the solution. Medicine can kill you.
Sure.
Higher education will make the world better? No. The higher you go, the worse you become.
We're talking about anxiety, depression, self-loathing, like
not knowing right from wrong
Sure.
because you're the president of an Ivy League college,
Sure.
and you don't know right from wrong?
This is interesting. The diminishing or negative returns of some of these things we thought were binarily good or bad.
Yes. Religion. Anybody looks to their religion for help? You can't trust the leaders when they're the most embarrassing thing in your... So where is morality going to come from?
God?
Right. It's got to come from God. Well, who is still listening to God?
From your perspective, Jews and Jews alone, right?
Yes. And the world knows that. And all of a sudden, all the focus is on Israel. They don't know why, but that's what it is. Israel is the center of attention, and it really shouldn't be for any practical reason. Who cares? Who cares?
Sure.
And if you divide Israel into two states, the two smallest states in the
Sure.
world, maybe...
But the Muslims won't take that negotiation, right?
Right.
They will not accept that deal.
Right.
Is that the situation?
But look at what we're fighting over.
A small chunk of land?
It's ridiculous.
How does this all end?
Monaco is smaller.
Yeah, that's interesting. How does this conflict end, if at all?
The conflict ends because Christians are very disillusioned with Christianity.
Okay.
They don't think Christianity is the solution to the world, to our problems. Muslims are disillusioned with Islam. Too much violence. Internal.
You're talking like domestic violence or people killing each other within the Muslim faith?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
One group killing the other group.
Sure.
So the only real hope left is that the Jews are in fact right about God, about the Bible, and about morality. When we become the teachers, the world will become sane. Until then, chaos. So right now, I think the world is poised. If we speak to the world with the wisdom of the Torah, if we quote Moses with authority, the world will settle down and become a really, really godly place.
Okay. And anyone watching on the fence of what it means to have a relationship with God, do you think they should read the Torah?
Absolutely. But from a Jewish understanding, which is unchanged.
Got it. So an unedited, no New King James Version, just the original OG Torah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm quite certain our best friends are going to be the Muslims.
Interesting. Because they are as traditional and strict in the adherence to the Torah and the commandments as more so than Christians.
And they're really passionate about God. They really are. Once they realize that's not what God wants, He doesn't want you in heaven with your virgins, they will be the most passionate supporters of Judaism, of Torah. They will take down the mosque so that we can build the third temple.
Do you think we'll see this? Do you think we'll see a united Jew and Muslim world in our lifetime?
I think it's already begun.
Okay. Even amidst this conflict. Wow. So Jews and Muslims will get at the table and shake hands one day.
I think Saudi Arabians, they all believe that Israel belongs to the Jewish people and that we are the chosen people. They're as close as is possible in this chaotic world. So yeah, their devotion to God is enviable. The information they were given is misleading. So as soon as they find out what God really wants, they will be our strongest and most sincere allies.
Wow. All right. Peace 2024. Muslim Jew Christian Union Alliance. Maybe.
And that's what we call one God world.
And that's written about in the Torah?
Yeah.
So this day will come, as
Yes.
it was written.
On that day, let me quote, on that day God will be one and his name will be one.
Okay, a reunion. All the people.
Yeah. Which doesn't mean that everybody's going to become Jewish. Totally unnecessary.
Sure.
But one God, which means one morality.
Sounds good to me.
There's no other way.
Like, in the terms of peace, because from your perspective, being Jewish is almost a burden. Like a burden of being an example and following the rules to a T. Seems like a heavy position of leadership from the Jewish perspective to non-Jews. In this scenario, even I see your guys' attire and the adherence to the law and the prayers. Seems like a lot of work.
Yeah.
I don't envy that. It's a full-time job.
It is a full-time job, but it's a very meaningful, inspiring job.
I see. That's what I don't get to see or feel in the same way.
Yeah, it's not an assembly line.
Yeah. It's a gift. Responsibility.
It is a reason to live.
Which so many people right now lack.
Don't have, right.
Yeah.
That's why we're so fragile.
Yeah.
We barely have a grip on life. So don't stress me out anymore because I can't take it. Because we don't know why we're here.
Rabbi, thank you so much for sharing all this. This taught me a lot.
And this can help a lot of people make the world better.
I think so. Peace 2024. I'm hopeful. Thank you, Rabbi. You know your stuff, Rabbi. I'll take this from you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, pleasure.
That was all very enlightening to me. I haven't read the Torah yet. But I might.
It's a bestseller.
Well, I've read the Old Testament, to be fair.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so I guess I have read the Torah.
Yeah.
That is the Torah?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm well read. All right. We'll get out of your hair now, Rabbi.
Not for now. Wait, say one more time?
All right, we're here with Yoni. I just met up with the rabbi. He told me all about Judaism. It was very interesting. I think, man, I feel like I wish every person got a in-depth class on every major world religion. I think you'd have a much better understanding on what's going on. Be better able to form a more nuanced opinion on religion and your willingness to be a part of that, whether it's Islam, Judaism, Christianity. I'm really glad we had that conversation. But he was cool. He welcomed us in his house, and I learned a lot. We just yapped for 50 minutes.
You can see why he's YouTube's most popular rabbi.
Oh, he knows how to spitball. He knows how to run with it. Yeah. No, we had a good chat in his house.
Yeah.
Don't include his address.
I'm not. Don't worry.
No, we learned a lot. It was interesting.
Okay, thanks.